welcome to today's recent record reviews. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Hits.
And we are reviewing records that are
recent.
And today we have someone else reviewing records with us.
My name's Elias. I'm a radio DJ with Lush 99.5. Occasionally, I'm also a Caesar Milan impersonator and current holder of a shitty mustache.
Yes. I have not seen the impression yet. I would love to though.
Yeah. I'll show it to you after this.
Yes.
Do you have any dogs around? We've got a couple of bitches over there, I'm sorry.
Oh, Beyonce would have something to say about that, my friend.
I never problems, but a bitch ain't one.
Anyway, today we'll be reviewing three recent records that have come out and made an impact. Actually, no. One of them is upcoming, right? It's coming out next. Oh yeah, it's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Which one's coming out soon?
Nick Chim.
Nick Chim. Yeah.
Okay.
At least at this time of filming, because by the time this episode is out, I think it will probably be out by then.
Correct.
Yeah. So the first album we'll be reviewing is by Nick Chim. He's a singer-songwriter from Singapore, and his latest EP is called The Greatest Enemy. So, Hizir, what do you think about it?
Well, Nick Chim, as Dan has mentioned, is a very long-standing singer-songwriter in Singapore of high repute. He's very well known for for his solo work as an acoustic singer-songwriter. He's been a member of Vertical Rush, and he's the owner of an amazing beard. So he's known for all three things. His new EP, The Greatest Enemies, it feels like Nick has upped his songwriting game a tad.
Yeah.
His instrumentation, his arrangement, it all sounds lusher, fuller. And I really like that progression in Nick. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I haven't followed Nick for the longest time, but the stuff that I heard from his earlier work, I have to say there is a huge progression into his current stuff, because the arrangements are a lot more lush, like you said, and it's more complex actually.
Yeah, at least more than 4G fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Elias.
I think the thing about Nick is that when you're a bare bones singer-songwriter, you need more than just a good voice. And we see this happening with Bob Dylan, Simon & Garfunkel, Tom Petty, Nick Cave, even Leslie Lowe from Humpback Oak at the Observatory as well. So it's more than just having a good voice, you need to feel his voice, and I think that's what Nick Chim brings to the table very well.
Yeah.
You feel the despair in his voice.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be winning American Idol anytime soon.
No, that's not the point.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. And what he brings to the table is it's a lot of emotion in his voice, and I think that's his biggest contribution to music. Because nobody cares about Dave Matthews Band anymore, right? Or James Blunt.
Yeah. Well, James Blunt still cares about James Blunt.
Yeah. You have a point. Okay.
It's a great Twitter.
But he's more renowned for his Twitter feed than his music now.
Yeah.
But
I also think a lot of the credit has to go to Leonard, who makes and recorded this.
Yes.
Because it sounds really crisp and really clear. I think that The Greatest Enemy still retains Nick Chim's signature, which is his aching personal lyricism.
Yeah.
That's always been his go-to feature.
He's got so much pain in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, where does that come from?
And I guess the personal themes also is kind of highlighted by his whole existential perspective that he brings. God Your Tool, of course, that definitely brings something different. It reminds me of something that Frightened Rabbit would do. Yeah, and who were we talking about earlier?
The first track, Come On Sing Out.
Daughter?
Reminds me a lot of Doctor's Youth.
Yeah.
It's just the vibe and the instrumentation. I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but yeah.
Nice. Okay. Then Hizir, how much are you rated over 10?
I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give it a 7 as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I will give it a 6.5 only because I feel his voice still doesn't match up to the arrangements and the songs. I'm sorry, Nick, don't hate me, but
Nick, you can totally hate it.
I think that he has excelled in everything, but I felt like his performance was still quite lacking in certain areas, especially when he's up against Erica Lee.
Right.
Sure.
So
so you think that served to weaken his presence?
Yeah, actually I felt it did. Yeah.
Because I think she was brought on as an accent, and she sort of became the star of that song.
Yeah,
Right,
that's true.
right.
I mean, then because she is Erica Lee after all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyway, still enjoyed it. I think it's a big step up from his other releases.
I think this is probably Nick Chim's best work in quite some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even though we do have somewhat negative things to say, this is still a step up for Nick Chim,
Yes,
and I'm really happy about that.
The thing about him is that he really he can disappear into a world of something different and come out transformed.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see if he chooses to do something different with the next album. I'm excited to see what might happen next.
Exactly.
Ethnic EDM album.
Perhaps
That's a whole
go
new
down
thing.
the road of China Lim.
And if you're interested in checking this out, you can find it on Bandcamp. The next album that we'll be talking about is by a band called Konono Nº1. The album is called Konono Nº1 Meets Batida. Konono Nº1 is a Grammy Award-winning musical group hailing out of Kinshasa from the Congo. The band has actually been around since 1966. They're made up of like immigrants self-identifying as members of the Congo ethnic group, which is not native to Congo.
Right.
But so they've been around for a long time, and obviously they have a rotating cast of characters of members. In fact, their original member recently passed away.
Yeah.
So it feels like this album is sort of like a reset button for them and to introduce them to a whole new demographic and generation. And it's finally starting to get attention from the West, which is where this album comes in.
So which circle of the West is picking up Konono's work?
Oh, pretty much America and the UK
Okay.
right now.
No,
Yeah.
but which pockets of that market is picking it up?
I'm not too sure. From what I read from we found out about Konono No. 1 through Western media.
Right.
So it's something that
Is it like the Pitchforks or the Rolling Stones?
yeah, the pitchforks.
That's more of like the fact.
The facts.
Yeah,
The
fact
facts
Side.
resident
Okay, right.
advisors,
Yeah, because apparently even up to 2003, and they've been together since 1966. Up to 2003, 2003 was when they played their first show outside of Congo.
Yeah.
So they've been kind of like, I suppose, a local phenomenon for a long time.
It's actually like the Bandwagon Rewind as well.
Yeah.
They were actually really popular in the country for a really long time since the 70s. Then it was only until like recently in like 2010, 2011 they started touring outside.
Right.
And then they had this whole reputation of being like a blues rock meets like African rhythms kind of band.
Mhm.
Yeah. Really cool.
So what's interesting about Konono No. 1 is that they use this thing called an electric likembe, which is the traditional African instrument, with voices, dancers, percussion instruments, and items actually salvaged from a junkyard, which is strange, but really interesting. And this is their first collaboration with a Portuguese producer called Batida, which is kind of adding a whole new context to the sound. So I'm eager to find out what my colleagues think about this album.
I think like this album serves as a great example of like the African origins of dance music.
Yeah.
And listening to it, like it feels like a sterile like dance album, but like taking into account like there are a lot of like organic instrumentation into the album, that makes it all more impressive. Like, and I feel like playing it all the way through is definitely like a thrill ride for me. Like there's a lot of dynamism in like the arrangements, and I felt that the performance itself was pretty varied, if not a little bit like static, like towards the middle, I guess.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was still a well-produced album. Elias?
I thought it was a great vibe album, and I agree with you. It kind of got very static because conceptually, the album didn't feel very strong. It felt like a collection of songs, rather than a well thought out masterpiece in the way that Kitty. You know,
Right.
But not to be the guy that doesn't acknowledge the cultural magic behind this, I feel like in the year 2016 we've kind of heard an album that sounds like this already.
Yeah.
Sure.
It is still fresh,
Right.
because we haven't heard this particular instrument. What was the name of the instrument again?
The likembe.
The likembe. We haven't heard the likembe used in the context of dance music in the way that it's being presented here. But I feel with a more cohesive sort of concept behind the album, it has the potential to become a masterpiece. Unfortunately, at this stage, it doesn't really feel it. Nothing really stands out.
I feel like the elements that you feel that Sami and Yuka in 2016 actually come from Batida.
Right, the producer, the electronic music producer.
He's an electronic music producer
Yeah.
who's pretty much rooted in kind of Western styles, although there is a bit of like groove, which is like the
His name is Batilda. Or
Batida.
So in this case, do you think that Batida actually bogs down Konono No. 1 here, or do you think he actually helps to serve?
It depends on where you're coming from. I think he makes it more accessible to Western audiences, which is why it's suddenly being picked up by Western media.
Yeah.
I think he helps to amplify the sound a lot more. I think he helps to really, kind of, like you said, bring it to the Western world. But I would like to see how something like Tame Impala, I mean the guy behind Tame Impala,
Kevin Parker.
I would love to see his touch on this album.
That's
And
very
I
true.
think it would take it to a much higher level.
I think it was kind of a similar thing about how Nick Zimmer from EAS helped to produce Songhai Blues album. It really gave an added element because like Songhai Blues was firmly rooted in blues rock, but Nick Zimmer gave them an extra help in like songwriting, for example.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot. So ratings wise, what would you give it this year?
I think I agree with Elias in the sense that it wasn't a cohesive album, but I don't think that was what they were going for.
Yeah.
I think this is jubilant and frolic and kind of surprisingly nuanced, which I didn't expect. It is. It's really fun, dancefloor friendly album, and if that's how you like your African music, then you're definitely gonna love this. And that's how I like my African music.
Yeah.
So I'm actually giving this an 8 out of 10.
I think I agree as well. I think like this album is extremely fun, and I think it will set the party alight for sure. So I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10.
Whoa.
I don't party that much. I don't spend much time on dance floors these days, so I like my music speaking to my head. I don't really feel that from this album, so I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Even though I would put it on a Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
The third album we're going to talk about is actually Beyonce's latest album. It's titled Lemonade. So now Lemonade was actually her 6th album, and it was actually debuted on HBO of all places. So what happened was that she actually filmed like an hour-long film. Yeah. She filmed an hour-long film. It's kind of called like a visual album. So it's meant to accompany the actual album itself, which was released thereafter. So
On Tidal.
On Tidal, yeah.
Only on Tidal.
Yeah.
What is Tidal?
For iOS.
What is Tidal?
I know.
No, it's fine.
Jay-Z?
What is
Yeah,
Tidal?
let's
Where are
ask
you?
Jay-Z. Is Jay-Z there?
Yeah.
Is he there? Or is he left?
Oh, he left.
Can you text him? Because I need a coffee, and if he's going to get coffee, just let him know. This guy is slacking off.
Back at it again, the shadiness, man. Lemonade is actually her 6th album that she's released so far, and it just happens to be a visual album, which means that she premiered it at HBO, and it's like an hour-long movie that accompanies the entire album. So I've not seen the film myself, but yeah.
You're missing out, man. It's a spectacular piece of filmmaking. It's a giant hour-long music video that is just pretty much one of the most amazing things I've ever
Right.
seen.
I've honestly never been much of a music video person myself.
What?
Yeah. Like I would rather just like spin the entire album than to actually like watch a music video.
Have you always been this way, or is it a recent phenomenon?
Oh, I've always been an MTV guy when I was younger, but I
Yeah,
guess like
right.
when you have like the access to MTV, the internet, I've kind of disregarded music videos.
That speaks more about the tendencies of, how we consume media these days.
Yeah.
Than you as, music video versus an album.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I guess this was presented as an audio-visual kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
So like the question is whether we judge it as a visual album or as an album. But since you haven't seen the thing, we would just judge it as an album.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I think as an album, this is her most personal statement to date. It's an entire album of like emotional discord and marital meltdown from the world's most famous celebrity. She pretty much steamrolls Jay-Z throughout most, if not all, of the album.
I mean, at this point, it's not even like we're guessing. It's so obvious, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, this is the queen in middle fingers mode, Like, it's all about you cheated on me and you will pay.
Who are we talking about again?
This dude called Jay-Z, he owns this thing called Tidal.
Oh, the coffee guy.
Yeah, the coffee guy, yeah. Tidal ain't working out.
Right.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah.
I thought
That's why
it's
you drink coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's essentially this is a personal statement, and I don't know, man. Okay, like I've been wrestling with myself about whether to judge this in context or not, because I think without context it works as a great album.
Yeah.
But the emotional resonance of it is all about the context, right?
Yeah.
Whether you want to believe a story or not. Personally, I think it's bullshit. I
Right.
think like they concocted the
I agree.
story, and
I agree.
and this is a marketing stunt.
Doesn't he appear at the end? Spoiler alert, but he appears at the
He
end.
appears, and the whole album is sold through the platform that he owns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He
He appears at the end. I don't doubt that Jay-Z's ever cheated on her, but I doubt.
I mean,
that
like, why would he? Right?
he's a man. But I doubt. But I doubt that like Beyonce will make it so public if she really felt this strongly about it.
If she hasn't resolved it yet.
Yeah.
In a personal capacity.
Yeah, and I also doubt that Jay-Z would be putting this out and guest starring in the video if he wasn't cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Unless he's that dense, which I don't think so.
I don't think
the
I
same
don't-
guy who put out Reasonable Doubt, so I don't think so.
I don't think so, exactly. So I think, although I think the story is bullshit, it works on a musical level.
Yeah, and it's still entertaining, I guess.
It's still entertaining.
Yeah,
Like,
on a
look
foundational
at it
level.
as like a piece of theatre.
Yeah.
Then this is a soundtrack to a narrative for a film that they made together. That's the way I see it. I don't believe that it's real. I don't believe that like this Rachel Roy girl, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, in the end, also, like, whether it's real or not, I guess that's kind of beside the point.
That's beside the point,
Yeah.
exactly.
It just adds the element whether or not it's real, but like we still enjoy it on this like the same level.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but like it's that drama that drives the cultural conversation. And that's why this album is getting so much attention.
Yeah.
So would it be as respected or as revered if not for that conversation?
Right.
I don't know. I think it will be, because just taken in a vacuum, this is a great album. Do you guys agree?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, man.
I think the genius of this album comes from Beyonce and her team's understanding of how to tell stories in 2016, right? How do you keep people paying attention to an album in a world of I've seen and heard everything already? You create talking points.
Yes.
That's basically the Kardashians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sex tape, etc., etc. So the whole story behind Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce, this album, I feel, would be nothing without it. We wouldn't be talking about it on this scale
Right.
without that story.
Sure.
Jay-Z cheated on the queen of hip hop. Holy shit, the earth is flat. And that's why this album has so much hype.
But I mean, at the same time, it's a womanizing rap star.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
In other news, water is wet. You know?
But that is also true. But in 2016, albums of music are worth close to nothing because everything is at our fingertips. You hear musicians complain about this all the time. Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys, he recently talked about this on the Joe Rogan podcast. Various members of Metallica have spent their lives complaining about how, you know, it's not the same world anymore for musicians. So Beyonce's stock is going up, even though people don't listen to the album because of all these talking points surrounding the album.
The think pieces.
The think
million
pieces.
think pieces.
So the product is no longer the product anymore. The album is not the product. It's the surrounding shit that's going on around it that's bolstering this product that is the real genius behind all of this.
Right, this is more than an audiovisual album, this is a whole experience.
It's a whole experience, yeah.
And like, if you guys think about it, so this is not the first album to do this year. Like
Kanye.
The Life of Pablo, it's still a living, breathing project. It's still ongoing.
Exactly.
You know, Kanye is still updating it, and like he's pretty much changing our perception of what an album could be.
Sure.
You know, instead of just being a complete album, this is something that can be updated on maybe in 5 years' time or so. So it's definitely something that we've kind of considered, considering the fact that we are using streaming services, we're still buying singles from iTunes. We're no longer consuming albums from CDs anymore. You know, vinyl's going up, but at the same time, you know, like that doesn't mean the mainstream audience still is. You know, thinking about like the whole idea of like consuming an album, like since the 90s really, when you have like albums coming out on CD, for example, when people buy it, most of the time they're just buying it just to hear the singles. And because they're buying a whole package, so they'll probably just play like the songs, you know, maybe one or two will stick out. But what sells the album is still the singles.
Right.
And so right now for like an album like, you know, Lemonade, there was, I mean, I'm safe to say that there were no like singles that drove the album, right? It's Lemonade itself as a product that sold to the crowd.
And that's amazing in this singles-driven market.
So what do you think of the whole visual album?
I like it. It's certainly not the first time it's been done. Even Beyonce has done it before. Other famous bands like Arcade Fire have done it, but clearly not to this kind of cultural impact. I personally feel that I like it. It's something different. It's a different way for me to consume things, but at the same time, I'm still very old school in the way I consume music. I like the whole album concept, the whole like how like every track is linked to another track and that kind of thing. Like, I'm very old school in that way. But I'm starting to warm up to the way of the millennial, I guess.
Right.
And how they consume music.
Right.
What do you think of visual albums?
I actually think it's a great idea. Like, it's not something. It's definitely not like the feature of albums for sure. But it helps to like. I would say it helps to kind of extend the life of an album, at least in like the mainstream like perspective, because like, you know, there will be many people like us who still consume albums as albums, but you know, it's already been a long time that the mainstream has really forgone the whole album like format or the concept. You know, like it's really since the 90s. Like people bought Nevermind because of Smells Like Teen Spirit.
So you don't think the visual album's gonna be the next iteration of the album?
No, I don't think so.
Why
but
not?
Because like
if the mainstream has foregone
Yeah.
the album concept, why don't you think that this might be the next?
Because a visual album will have to work with a special concept, and not everyone will come up with that. And the problem is that adds on to, I guess, like in terms of like the monetary terms also, like, you know, the music industry is not doing so well right now. You know, for someone like Beyonce who has like money and the
Just
you know,
resources.
exactly.
So do you think it's going to become a pop thing, this visual album thing?
It could be. It could be, but only for a very elite few.
Yes.
The Kanye crew, the Beyonce crew, those people.
No, but one thing interesting about Kanye is that he has been kind of like anti-visual. Like,
Okay,
the last music video I've seen of him is Bound to, and like he didn't even take the shit seriously, which is awesome. And like there's nothing coming out of Life of Pablo other than an unofficial video by Aziz Ansari.
That is true, that's true.
So like making a visual album to me is more of a statement rather than like a sign of the future.
And also just the fact that like I think 80% of the artists out there cannot successfully pull this off to this level.
Yeah, for sure. I think what was interesting, I just wanted to highlight also is that, you know the band Sway? You know, like we all know them by like their 90s singles, you know, their glam rock stuff. But what they did was that when they reunited, they had an album called Bloodspot that came out about 2 years ago. They came out with an album sometime this year. It was called Night Thoughts. And,
they did?
Yeah, they did. And what people didn't know is that firstly, apparently the album was really good. And secondly, it was also a visual album. They had an entire movie with the album. And they premiered the album in the Royal Albert Hall with the movie. And apparently it was mind-blowing.
Nice.
So in that case, I guess to me, it's thinking about how like certain bands can approach a visual album. For them, it was purely almost animated or so, and it was very minimalist. So I guess like maybe visual albums might take a more important role also, but I guess like the way the artist will approach it matters. Yeah. Ratings, what would you give?
This is a 9 out of 10. If I was judging as a visual album, it would have been 9.5.
I think I'll give it an 8.10. I still enjoy it a lot. I want to see the visual.
Oh yeah, go download. go watch that somewhere.
I found it on Facebook.
Yeah,
It's
so it's fine.
or get Tidal.
Ah,
Have you heard of Tidal?
I know. I heard it's really good though. I love to spend $30 a month like on like useless stuff. So
Yeah.
at least that's where my money can go to now.
I just way too much money.
Yeah.
Go get Tidal.
I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as an audio album. I would give it a 5 out of 10 as a visual album. And this goes against what you're saying.
Yeah,
And I actually
whoa.
disagree with you. I think the visual album might be the future of music.
Huh.
Because kids fucking live in a visual world now, right? They live on YouTube.
So if you have any albums that you would like us to review for the next Triple R, please do let us know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe.
Peace.
Down below.
Down below.
Where's Jay-Z? Is he back yet?
Hey!